A 6.4 magnitude earthquake is shaking the foundation of the India-Myanmar border. Back in the Western world, it's early morning. A student has an idea for an online marketplace. The name, Silk Road, a website where literally anything could be bought or sold. Its location, the dark web.
It's more than just a website, it's a cause.
Little does he know, one of the registered vendors has listed a peculiar pen for sale. Fast forward a few months and the Zero Trace pen soon became the go-to device for anyone who wanted to operate in complete anonymity. Loaded with over 40 hacking and privacy tools, the device is not for everyone. If you see someone with a Zero Trace pen, run.
Now let's discuss the not-so-great history of Myanmar as a country before this coup. So, this is a map of Myanmar when it was under British rule, and it was under British rule until 1948. And it was good at first. They had a democracy until 1962. The Burmese, they love coups. So, in 1962, Ne Win, this man, organized a coup. And he would end up being the military ruler, also known as a junta, of Myanmar for the next 26 years. In 1974, Ne Win enacted a new constitution that had very socialist and very isolationist policies. By 1988, corruption and food shortages led to the Burmese people coming out en masse to protest. History really does repeat itself. The protest came to a head in August 1988, where 3,000 protesters were killed by the government. And these protests were peaceful, until the government made it not peaceful. And late that year in 1988, Ne Win resigned, and they changed the country name from Burma to Myanmar officially. It really makes me sad to see Myanmar repeat the same thing over again that it's been through. Because this seems, it's just a broken record. It's the exact same thing that happened in 1988. Not the exact same, but I mean, can we stop with the coups? Jeez, you guys, they act like we're in the 1700s. No more coup d'etats. Stop with that.
A government airstrike killed at least 80 people at a concert. In northern Myanmar in Southeast Asia, hundreds were celebrating the anniversary of the ethnic armed group Kachin Independence Organization on October 23rd, when military jets started attacking from the air. At least 80 people were killed and many more injured. It is believed to be the single worst airstrike by the regime since it seized power in a military coup last year. Since then, Myanmar's junta has been fighting pro-democracy groups and ethnic armies across the country. Activists estimate that the junta has detained more than 12,000 people and killed over 2,000. Advocates are now calling on governments worldwide to sanction Myanmar's rulers and bring an end to the atrocities.
Rebecca Zahau was born on March 15, 1979. She and her family are from Burma, or modern Myanmar, and she lived in Germany and Nepal before eventually settling in the United States. In 2008, she began dating Jonas Shaknai. He was the CEO of a pharmaceutical company who she met as her patient during an eye exam. He and his son actually lived in the Sparkles Mansion of San Diego, which is a very notorious mansion in the Coronado area, which is very rich. On July 11th of 2011, Jonas' son Max unfortunately had an accident. While being babysat by Rebecca, he fell through the stairs or over the stairs landing and then fell through a chandelier which fell on top of him. He was taken to the hospital to be treated for spinal injuries which affected his breathing, and that's where both of his parents were during what happened next. On July 13th, Adam, Jonah's brother, called the police. He had been visiting his family since the accident, and he and Rebecca were alone the night of the 12th. He basically said on this call, "I got a girl here, hung herself, pretty detached." But when police arrived, that is what it appeared to be. A cord hung from a balcony, and cut down from it was Rebecca with her hands and feet bound, hands behind her back, and undressed. That one detail caught people off guard. Why would someone kill themselves naked? Why would they bind themselves to do it? Could she have tied this complex knot behind her own back? Her death was eventually ruled a suicide, but that's only where the controversy began. Firstly, the knot. The knot used to bind her hands was a clove hitch knot, mainly used for nautical purposes. Rebecca had nothing to do with boats. Adam Shaknai was a tugboat captain. Then there was the bed. On the crime scene, the bed that the rope was tied to in the room below the balcony only moved about 5 inches or so, but when a simulation was done, the investigators couldn't get the bed to move less than a few meters all the way across the room with the weight of the body and the rope. Then there was the message, "She saved him, can you save her?" was written in black on a door. This handwriting, according to an analyst not affiliated with SDPD, matches Adam's more than Rebecca's. There is, however, no DNA on anything, including, that is, the knife that Adam claimed to use to cut down Rebecca. That rope was a skiing rope too and would have taken a lot of effort to cut through. Odds are, unless he were wearing gloves or had wiped it away, he should have left DNA on that knife. There were also 4 incidents of head trauma on her body. Some investigators say that she could have hit her head on the way down on the balcony, and the other 3 are so small they could have just been in her life. But other experts disagree and say that was further evidence she was murdered. She also had neck fractures that were consistent with strangulation more than hanging. Being hanged from 9 feet with a strong rope should have had almost a severed neck, much less small cartilage fractures, which is what she had. Adam also might have failed his polygraph. I say might have because some people say it's inconclusive and other people say it's clear he failed it. Minor detail, Adam was also allegedly watching hentai the night that it happened, and then the pretty Asian lady turns up naked the next day. Max eventually did pass away on July 16th in the hospital of his injuries. A lot of people do suspect that despite the suicide ruling, Adam Shacknai did it as a revenge for his nephew or something.
Stop, because you need to know this right now. There is a war going on and no one knows about it. In Myanmar, civilians are being massacred, attacked by airstrikes, and even beheaded, and the ones responsible for their actions are none other than their own military forces. In February 2020, the country experienced a coup. The military led by Min Aung Hlaing, who seized control of the country, detained political leaders including State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi, and declared a state of emergency. The military justified the coup by alleging widespread election fraud in the 2020 general elections, which the party led by Aung San Suu Kyi had won by a landslide. As a result, there have been widespread protests and demonstrations by the people demanding the return of democracy and the release of detained leaders. The military has responded with violence and has gone completely insane at killing civilians without any remorse, disturbingly going as far as beheading 2 teenage boys to showcase terror to those who fight back. It's really sad that this has been happening for 2 years while most of our attention is focused on the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Like and follow for more updates on Myanmar's situation.
The new capital is home to less than 1 million residents, most of which reside in the suburbs that were present even before the city became the capital. But why does no one want to live there? A lingering gap in health facilities, lack of quality educational institutes, and economic opportunities mean that most of the population is reluctant to make the city a permanent home. So, the city often paints the picture of a deserted place and is often referred to as a ghost town. The incredible 20-lane highway is practically empty. Traffic congestion is unheard of, and at times, a single automobile is caught drifting along the tremendous road. The city has an airport that can handle 3.5 million passengers every year, but on a busy day, a dozen people will actually use it. The shopping malls are visited only by the diplomatic staff on weekends, while the hotel lobbies are mostly empty. Despite the apparent barrenness, there's a silver lining for the royal capital. It's built as a city of the future, and with the exploding population, Naypyidaw still has time for an inevitable redemption. For now, it's arguably the world's strangest capital, and remains useless for much of the country's population.
What's up, TikTok? Pretend this is a normal fruit eating video, and I'm totally not going to talk about the humanitarian crisis that's going on in Myanmar, because every time I talk about it, TikTok keeps taking down my videos. The Myanmar military is committing war crimes and committing human rights violation against the Karen people. The Karen people are indigenous to southeast Myanmar. They're attacking innocent villagers that want no part of the war. They're shooting down schools. They're killing children. Recently, they have been conducting airstrikes to commit these crimes. It's not headlining in news anywhere. Nobody is talking about it, and I want you guys to show that you care by interacting with this video, commenting, sharing. I have a petition link in my bio. I also have a donation link in my bio. If you want to read more about it, I also have a link in my bio.
kidnapped and sold into prostitution in Myanmar's northern region. I was even filmed for dark web movies, with the audacity of casting me as the lead. It all started when Julia lured me onto the streets under the guise of offering a high-paying job, only to traffic me to this place called Northern Myanmar. In this bleak corner of the world, I was forced to service clients, reduced to little more than an animal. One day, a man named Brother Who entered my life. He rescued me from that existence but made an even more outrageous demand. He wanted me as his woman. Brother Who treated me well, even taking me on a tour of his human dairy factory. The women there were injected with lactation-inducing drugs, their faces flushed red and drenched in sweat, all for the sake of producing milk. When Brother Who took me to see those women, they screamed madly for release, saying they'd rather work as prostitutes than endure such abuse. I was terrified, but Brother Who remained unmoved. Then one day, an old lady named Granny Sun came to see me. She asked how many days it had been since my period and recorded my menstrual cycle. I was frightened, unsure of her intentions. Later, I discovered she was confirming if I was pregnant. Brother Who intended to use our child to control me, making me manage those women for him.
You know, if you want me to talk about what's happening in Myanmar, you can just ask me nicely. But since you pissed me off, we're gonna address this comment. Alright, so let's break it down. The fact that nobody talks about what's happening in Myanmar, but we are expected to stop the war for Palestine. You can't be serious right now. And this is the issue with a majority of people. They think that speaking up for human rights should be something that's transactional between different groups, when it shouldn't have to be. I don't speak up for Palestine and go around to every Palestinian and be like, hey, if you speak about what's happening in Myanmar, I am going to speak up for Palestine. That's not how it works with me. I speak about Palestine because I care about the people in Palestine. I care about the Palestinian issues. I care about the Palestinian cause. I don't need it to be transactional because I know that my humanity comes from the kindness of my heart. A lot of you won't get that. And then you want to call me performative, and you want to say that this issue has been going on for 90 years, but I just recently started caring about it. How old do you think I am? Do you think I'm 90 years old to start talking about it from 90 years ago? I first heard about this issue back in May or April of earlier this year, and because of the media blackout and a whole bunch of other reasons, I was not educated on this topic. It wasn't until Hamas launched an offensive attack on Israel, that's when I started getting caught up with everything, and that's when I started speaking up. And if you want me to talk about what's happening in Myanmar, I actually have. This was me during the coup. Yep, look, all of these, there's actually more. There's more than this. I was very, very vocal during the coup about Myanmar. And if you want people to care about what's happening in Myanmar, this is not the way to do it. Come on.
I remember the police car driving us away. There was like a police van in front of us with these guys with the AK-47. Yeah. It looks like a medieval torture chamber. Yeah. And I thought, my God, what are they going to do to me here? As it turned out, that would be my home for the next 2 months. A military intelligence guy trying to scare me by lighting a cigarette lighter to the back of my head and sort of singe my hair.
I had a lot of people sitting opposite me that have spent significant times in prison. You don't seem to fit the stereotype. I'm not seeing the tattoos or the gold bling.
Yeah, I think that perception's pretty accurate. I never even had a parking ticket.
Yeah.
So the idea that I would be sort of banged up in this prison, you know, one of the notorious prisons in Asia, is just unthinkable.
The fascinating world of Irrawaddy dolphins, survivors of the shallow waters. Deep within the tropical and subtropical waters of the Indo-Pacific region, a unique and enigmatic creature resides: the Irrawaddy dolphin. The story of the Irrawaddy dolphin in the Irrawaddy River, Myanmar, dates back centuries. The earliest reference to these creatures, known as river pigs among the Pyu people, can be traced to the New Tang History, a Chinese text from around 800 AD. Surveys conducted in the late 19th century revealed their presence in the Irrawaddy River between Yangon and Bamo during different seasons. However, the range was not without its limits, with the local Shan people reporting that dolphins were never found beyond a certain point known as Dolphin Point. Fast forward to recent times, and the story has taken a troubling turn. Surveys conducted between 1996 and 2003 painted a grim picture. The dry season range of these dolphins had dwindled drastically, with sightings limited to specific segments of the Irrawaddy River. In 2003, the best estimate of their population in the surveyed area was just 59 individuals, indicating a precarious situation. Irrawaddy dolphins are highly adapted to their unique environments. They thrive in deep pools of large rivers, sheltered inshore marine regions with substantial freshwater inflows, and even partially isolated brackish or freshwater bodies. In the Irrawaddy River, sightings of these creatures were concentrated around geomorphologically complex areas near channel convergences, islands, and defiles. These locations provide the necessary conditions for their survival, including ample prey and suitable water depths. Despite their long history in the region, Irrawaddy dolphins face several critical threats to their survival. One of the most significant concerns is the presence of fishing gear, particularly gill nets. These nets, used extensively in the region, pose a severe risk to the dolphins. Electric fishing, a practice where electricity is used to catch fish, has emerged as another serious threat. It is often practiced clandestinely at night, making it difficult to monitor and regulate. Notably, electric fishing has been linked to the decline of other dolphin species, such as the beige in China. Gold mining operations along the Irrawaddy River have introduced further complications. These operations use mercury to extract gold, leading to elevated mercury levels in the water and aquatic life. As top predators in the ecosystem, Irrawaddy dolphins face the risk of mercury exposure, which can lead to adverse health effects. Efforts to protect the Irrawaddy dolphins are underway. Conservation initiatives led by organizations like the Wildlife Conservation Society and the Myanmar Fisheries Department aim to establish protected areas in the upper reaches of the Irrawaddy River. These areas would limit or eliminate gill netting, enforce laws against electric fishing, and monitor the dolphin population and threats closely. Such initiatives provide hope that these remarkable creatures can continue to thrive in their unique habitats, despite the challenges they face. The story of the Irrawaddy dolphin is one of resilience and adaptation in the face of changing environments and increasing human activities. While the challenges are significant, dedicated conservation efforts offer a glimmer of hope for the future of these intriguing marine mammals.
Ma-Fei-Wa, also known as the Yellow Ribbon Lady, is a Nat, or guardian spirit from Myanmar folklore. She's known as the guardian of cemeteries and the harbinger of death. Like all Nats, she resembles a human, taking on the form of a woman with long black hair. But that's not what makes her so feared. When the clock strikes midnight, Ma-Fei-Wa leaves the cemetery with a coffin on her shoulder and slowly makes her way to the nearby town or village. She'll leave this coffin on the doorstep of a home. This means a person in that household will eventually get sick and die. Sadly, it's usually a child. A monk once claimed that Ma-Fei-Wa actually appeared in his dreams. In those dreams, she said she wanted to eat the flesh of babies. To curb panic, the local abbot advised that people should encourage her to eat dogs instead. Superstitious parents put up signs in front of their homes that read, "Our baby's flesh is bitter, but the dog's flesh is sweet." What would you do if a coffin appeared on your doorstep?